And now, coming to you from the Pensado Media Center, powered by Westlake Pro.
Our guest has 13 #1 singles, and that's not the half of it. Prepare to learn. The Indaba contest is in full swing. Pensado Giant Award winner announced. We'll be in New York for AAS and an ITL from a different direction. You're at the place. It's Pensado's place.
Hey guys, thanks for dropping by. As always, good to see you. Good to hang out with Herb and myself. How you been, buddy?
I'm good. I don't have any ice. It's not an audio thing. It's just a need.
Are you telling somebody that cares?
No.
Oh,
not
good.
The least. Okay, cool. I was just confirming that you didn't care, and you confirmed it for me. How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
You still in the midst of
good.
mixing your cool BEP project?
Yeah.
They can figure out what
Oh,
BEP
man, great
is.
stuff, great stuff. Will's on fire.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Shall we get to it?
Oh, yeah. I'm starting to care now.
Okay, cool. Let's do that. Hey, family, hope you are well. Like and subscribe if you will. We certainly appreciate it. Yeah. Our partners, incredible. They are 1500 or Nothing, the Blackbird Academy, Westlake Pro, Avid, DTS, Lander, and the Fab Factory. As we said earlier, the Indaba contest is absolutely blowing up. Cool prizes to the first, second, and grand prize winner, including an appearance in Pensado's Place, Tascam Track Factory, stuff from Isotope, stuff from Beat Skills, Lander, Indaba Music, lots of good stuff. The track is Havoc. It's from Adrian Daniel. Bring your skills, knock it out. Enter right here at indabamusic.com. Do not delay. We want to see that. It's always fun stuff for us. Another announcement that we're really happy to make. Dave and I had a lot of discussions as we do coming up to Pensado Awards. We try to make the right decisions. This one didn't take us very long. No. So we are super pleased to announce that this year's Pensado's Giant Award winner is the amazing, amazing Greg Wells.
Yes.
Think about this. He's been featured in Modern Drummer for drumming, Keyboard Magazine as a pianist, Electronic Magazine as a programmer, Mix Magazine as a producer and mixer, and Billboard Magazine as a songwriter. Not too talented, is he? I mean, he is just a monster, right?
Yeah, he really is.
But that's not all. How about this hit list? It goes from Katy Perry to Keith Urban, Adele to Aerosmith, 21 Pilots to One Republic, Pharrell to Pink, Jars of Clay to Rascal Flatts, and there's even more that we just won't go any farther. He is a monster talent. He is as intellectual as he is kind. And I think, and this is what makes him proud, he is a musician's musician. Yeah. And he is a recipient of our Giant Award winner this year, right? Great guy, right?
Yeah, I've known Greg a long time, and he's salt of the earth.
He will never let you down. So way to go, Greg. We are proud and honored to do this for you. Absolutely. And by the way, you can meet Greg at AAS in New York if you're going to be there around October 20th. Dave and I are doing a live version of Pensado's Place. AAS has been cool enough to provide an opportunity for you to come for free, which is a very cool thing. We'll be interviewing Greg, and you'll have a chance to meet him afterwards. So take advantage of that. You're going to learn a lot from Greg. He's a great guy. We're going to have a good time. And Dave and I want to meet you. How do you sign up? And you can sign up for no cost whatsoever. Go to aesshow.com/AES17PP. You can see the link right here. You can go to the website and see it. That's aesshow.com/AES17PP. So we want to see you there. Greg wants to see you there. It's going to be a good time.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think we've got about an hour and a half to hang and do some stuff and meet some people, give some stuff away. So it's going to be fun. A little bit different take on ITL this week, huh?
Well, Louis Sartelli was the winner of the Indaba contest that we just had. He's also known as Electrosmog. We're going to talk to him about some of the things he did to win. I'm going to ask him some questions on the things I liked about his mix. I think it's going to be kind of cool and insightful, too.
Cool. Let's roll it.
Let's do it. Louis, first of all, congratulations. You did a great job. You won the contest by quite a large margin. I'm going to read again some of the criterion I use. I've got 10 categories: vocals, levels and balance, EQ skills, use of effects, stereo field, the vibe, the emotion, drums and music, inventiveness, musicality, and did I love it? And you scored the highest in almost every category, but you scored really high in your use of effects. On the vocals and on some of the instruments, what was your process for that? Were you trying to impress me, or were you trying to be musical, or what?
Well, thank you very much. I always try to like do my best, so yeah. But so for effects, yeah, what I found is like the tracks. There were like, I don't know, like 3, 4, or 5 tracks of effects, and like the effects were like very like, they had these big reverbs, and they were like a lot of like big effects. And at the beginning, I was thinking more in a drier mix, so I kind of lowered down the volume of the effect tracks that came with the stems, and like kind of de-reverb them with the reverb plugins, and then like started like a bit of working on the effects that I liked, that they were more into the delays side and less reverb. Yeah.
You know what? That's brilliant, because I'm listening to all these songs with the same effects, and then your song comes on and it has different effects. And so sometimes for a judge, different catches your ear, and then you start listening closer. Now, when I started listening closer to some of the contestants, they fell apart. But when I started listening closer to you, I could tell there's some skill here. On your vocals, what did you use on your vocals?
Well, the vocals, actually, like from the whole mix, I would say there were like the tracks that were more like workable. They were more controlled. I mean, they were a bit already compressed, and they were quite fine. The problem I find on the vocals were, well, not any problem really. I enhanced them with 2 kinds of delays. A slap one, a very short one, and
a short, like you're talking about 80 milliseconds, 100 milliseconds?
It was around 15, maybe.
Oh,
15
that's short. Okay.
Or 10 or something like that. Yeah,
okay.
But they were filtered.
Okay.
And then I put like a longer delay, like of a 4th note.
A quarter note, yeah.
Filtered, and yeah, basically that was it, and reduced the reverbs. Actually, I didn't use any reverb on the vocals because they were already like sounding big.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is your education background and your experience?
I played as a musician. I played guitar all my life in bands since I was young, and then, but I really like felt like I was more into the sounding part, like the mixing part. So I studied in SAE Institute in Barcelona for 1 year, an intensive course. And from there, it was 7 years ago. And from there, like every day, I haven't stopped studying and practicing every day until now. So I have like these 7 years, and I can notice like every month the improvement. I listen to my mixes from before, and it's like every time I think I'm improving. Yeah. So.
That's so important, isn't it? To feel like you're growing and improving based on going back and listening to old mixes.
Yeah, definitely. And I can tell why, because like all the new studies of the months, I apply them, then I filter them, and I only keep like the best things, the things that work. So it's always like
that's
going up.
What are some of your musical influences?
Okay, I kind of like rock music, pop, and electronic a lot. But at the end, what I really enjoy listening to is like anything that sounds great. The sound is really at the end what really.
You scored real high in musicality. I'm thinking that's why, because you didn't just bring one set of tastes to the mix. You brought a wide set of tastes, and your rock taste I could hear in the mix because it gave it a little more power and energy than some of the other mixes. Did you use Pro Tools?
No, I mix in Logic Pro.
Oh, okay. What are some of your favorite plugins that you use a lot, and why?
Well, it's difficult because there are so many, but okay.
Yeah, I know.
Just to say, I don't want to say that like the common ones that everybody knows, like the wave channels, compressor. So if I have to say something special, unique, it would be maybe I use a bit like to mix this chorus called Fluid from Audio Damage, which it's not like an effect. It doesn't feel like an effect. It just like opens up like every sound. Like for example, for mastering, I love the Oxford limiter from Sonos. I think it always gets like the best results in my opinion.
What situations in the mix did you think you solved really well? What problems and how did you solve them?
I would say like the most problematic was like maybe the low end, the kick and the bass. I found them like they had a lot of sub bass, but not so much body. So for the bass, like I had to treat it like really good, process it really good. But then after, I lost like the high end of the bass because it was always acting like a synth, like making these high notes. So I just doubled the track of the bass, and I cut it in two. So I processed like the lower end like as a bass and the upper end like as a melodic synth or something like that. Yeah. Yeah, and the other thing was like with the drum loops, with the drum tracks, they were like stems. They were all together, and like the snare, and they were a bit harsh, But like the snare drum was mixed in them, and every time I reduced the harshness, then I lost the snare sound a bit. So yeah, I had to duplicate them and cut the snare hits and process them differently also. No?
Okay, so you cut out all the snares individually.
Yeah, but luckily they were all in beats, so I just quantized in beats and cut them. So I could process them different because they really needed that.
What did you do to solve the ultra low end issue?
Yeah, I found like the bass was lacking of like upper harmonics or let's say mid-low harmonics. So I really used a lot of harmonic distortion. I used the decapitator from Soundtoys and a multiband compression, like to make a differentiation between the sub bass and the lower bass, and like I divided it in three ranges. I used passes like group tracks. Yeah. So after the processing, I joined the bass and the kick drum in a bus, and then I compressed them again together and that kind of stuff. And the other thing was on the main synth, it was only like one big synth like that covered like all frequencies, like from very low to very high, only one track. And that was masking absolutely everything, like the voice, like the vocals, the kick drum, the snare. So on that synth, I had to put like I think like 4 compressors, like with side chaining like 4 different things. No,
Oh,
so
I've never done that. So you had a compressor for each frequency that you wanted to take out. You had 4 different ones. Why didn't you choose one multiband?
Or 3. I remember it was like 2 different for voices, one for the kick, one for the snare, and there was an 808 tom, which was really important for the groove. So that one also. So they all cut it into this main synth because the synth was the only harmonic element. It was like a grand piano or something like that. It wasn't a piano, but it covered like all frequencies. So I had to make this dynamic folds everywhere.
Why didn't you use a multiband?
First of all, it was
I know why. Because you wanted each individual like vocal and all. Yeah.
Exactly. Different elements affecting the same one.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Good stuff.
Yeah. So
I'm so glad you won. You're a good person. Your enthusiasm is contagious, and you did a great job. And you scored higher than anybody else on my system by quite a bit. So if someone wants to hire you, how do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, well, my name is Luis Ceritelli, and you can Google me, my webpage or whatever, or my email directly, which is ceritelli.sound@gmail.com.
Okay, Cerrittelli.
Exactly.
You represent everything good about Indaba, and we really appreciate it. So,
Great. Thank you very much.
Adios.
Hey, we were down in Nashville, as we had told you the last couple of weeks, with YouTube, doing our thing. We met a great and brilliant guy. Please enjoy our discussion with a serious hit maker, serious creative person. Meet Luke Laird. Okay, so here's the deal. You graduated from MTSU.
Yes.
Good stuff, right? And so now, if I remember correctly, if I get my notes, 13 #1 singles, correct?
A couple more, but I'm not going to be that guy.
Over 800 compositions, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Names like Underwood, Shelton, McGraw, Aldean, Church, things like that.
I'm grateful to each and every one of them.
Songwriter of the Year, Album of the Year, stuff like that. Here's our concern. Are you sure this music thing is working for you?
Hey, just like everybody else, I'm just thankful for another day because you feel like the rug can be pulled out from you at any moment.
We're walking through the Nashville airport. It's B&A, I think, right?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, this guy comes over, like attacks Dave. Dave! And it's Luke and his wife coming in from London. And then Beth, the hardworking co-managing person of Creative Nation, she's got to go to the Ryman and do some work.
Yep.
So if we look tired, there's a reason for it. But we're going to bring it for this. Your process.
Mm-hmm.
How does it start? You are a lyric person. It seems to me that the lyrics are really important to you.
They are important to me, and I think that's part of being in Nashville. But the process is different every day. I moved here again, like you said, in 1997. Got out of MTSU in 2001, but I've always wanted to be a songwriter. Came here in 1995, saw a show at the Bluebird, but the process has changed some since I started writing songs when I was in elementary school, but really not a lot. I typically sit down with the guitar. A lot of times it comes from I have a title first, but then many times I'll start a track. And so people always ask, is it the music or lyrics first? Well, for me, it's different every time. It's just kind of how I'm inspired. I think most times music comes first, so I'll sit down and I'll either just have my guitar or I'll just start with building a beat and then chord progression around it. But again, it's different every day. And I have great co-writers, so depending on how they're feeling or if it's an artist, what they want to do, that can vary the way that we go about things.
What was the song title of the first song you ever wrote? I Love My Cheerios? Or?
Well, it was a heartfelt number that was kind of probably could have had a parental advisory sticker. It was actually in 5th grade called "The Thing Out of the Zipper." And I just remember, I don't know if that was the first one. That's the first one that was, really kind of made an impact at my household.
That was your first number one?
So yeah, I played that for my parents, and it was a.
Why don't you do a verse of that for us?
Yeah. It's probably not worth it. I was gonna say, I guess on YouTube you could get away with it, but I don't want to go backwards.
But I love your inspiration, the thing out of the zipper, because at that age you're sort of fascinated about.
Yeah, it just kind of just write. They say write what you know. So.
Luke, sorry. The songwriting process is something, those of you that know me know that I'm fascinated by it because I can write a song, but nobody likes it, even my mother. And I respect people that can do that because it's a combination of literature, it's a combination of musical skill. When you come up with a song, the melody is in your head or the chord changes are in your head and then you kind of flesh those out? Or is it? Or a lot of times songwriters will have a title and build from there.
Sure.
How do you do it? All the above?
Again, yeah, and I keep a list of titles in my phone, but I don't necessarily think of like chord structure in my head. For me, most times when I write, I'm not one of those people who wakes up in the middle of the night, I had a dream about a song. I wish that would be, boy, that would be so easy.
I think you're doing okay.
But most times it's when I'm sitting there with a guitar or, you know, in the studio with a beat. I just stream of conscience. I'll start like with a chord progression, and then like in the old days we used to hit record on the boombox and just start, you know, mumbling and try to be fearless and just say whatever. And a lot of times it makes no sense or it's not even words. And I try to be as free with that as possible, and then I come back. I'm sure you can relate, like with mixing, sometimes you have to kind of get out of your own way and just feel it and let it come through, and then go back and critique later. And a lot of times for us as songwriters, the hardest part can be editing yourself before you even get a chance to get anything done. So I really try to almost make a conscious effort to be subconscious about things
Can
when
what
I get
you do
started.
be taught?
What's that?
Can what you do be taught? Could you teach me to be a songwriter?
I could, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't think I'm a good teacher.
Be gentle. They're here to learn how to write a song.
But I can teach from experience. I can tell you what I know, and you know, things I've picked out. The best way that I've learned about being a songwriter is really just kind of studying songwriters that I'm a fan of. So by listening to the music, when I was a kid, like I said, a lot of times I would hear a song I liked on the radio, and I would record it. At this point, we had, you know, cassettes. Yep. I'd record it off the radio, and then I would sit there with my notebook, and I would listen to it, and I would, you know, play by ear, learn the chord structure. I'd write the chords down, and then I'd go back, listen to every lyric, write it down. This is before internet. And so I was learning song form because I would write, the end of the rhyme, line 1 and line 4 rhyme. And at the time, I was just writing each line like this, but then you start to see how things take shape. Oh, here's a verse, here's a chorus. And then as you do that with more and more songs, no matter which artist it was, it could be different genres of music, you start seeing, even in the creativity, there is a structure to things. And in popular music, obviously like a verse-chorus structure. And I started not consciously knowing that this is a verse-chorus, but I would learn how things were put together. And then what I would start doing is, when I was writing my own songs, think, in that song I really like, it had like 4 lines and they got to that chorus before it hit a minute long. Maybe I should try that. Thinking about it now, I wasn't as conscious about it back then, but I was learning how to write songs, and it was by studying the greats, you know?
You know, we're affiliated with, we love MTSU as a music program, and we are affiliated pretty closely with the Blackbird Academy, which we think is an amazing school. So we spoke to the students today, and one of the things, I want to see if you agree, one of the things that we think is really important for all you guys, I want to break down the audience so we know who we have, but you have to stay curious, don't you?
Yes.
You have to search. Like, don't think the process, you learn it, then you got it, and you stick and you stay. You got to push all the time and be curious and find your breakthrough. So just for our benefit, let me break down the crowd. How many people here are songwriters? Okay. Producers. See, there's an interesting story there. Engineers. Now, what's crazy is that almost all of you are all those things, which is a function of what's happening today, which is also career opportunity. Anybody on the business side, want to be a manager, want to be okay, fewer of those.
The smart ones in the crowd. Okay.
Come meet with me or Beth afterwards, and we'll talk about anything that we missed. Just a musician who wants to play, and so we got pretty much everything. Okay, cool. It helps us to know who to talk to. So one of the things that we see all the time from guys and ladies who have had success is that you never get quite there in the journey. You're always on the journey. That's a pretty good catch. You're always on the journey going. Correct?
Yes.
So when you're successful, how do you find your inspiration on where to go? Because sometimes we've seen people where success dulls their edges sometimes. And what do you do to keep motivated? You know,
I think first and foremost, and I would say probably everybody in the crowd is like this, just the fact that you're here is to be passionate. You know, this is, you know, yes, can be a hobby for some of us, but I think we're all well aware. If you're trying to just make money, who would go in the music business? You have to love music. You can make money doing it, but I think first and foremost, be passionate. And then I know for me, everybody has different definitions of success. And I know a lot of people look at me as successful because I've had some hits and I'm actually still in the business. Mm-hmm. But I guess when things start to feel a little dull, I think it's okay to take a little break, or, you know what I mean? Because I have different friends too who, I think it's okay to live with a little bit of that fear, like, hey, somebody else can take my spot. But at the same time, if you're just working by fear alone, then fear can create a little inspiration, but it can kill a lot of inspiration.
Absolutely.
So I try to, kind of like you were saying before, I'm still a huge fan of music that I don't work on. Mm-hmm. A lot of people get to a point where if it's not something they wrote, or they immediately find a way to critique it. And I've been a part of that as well. Sure. But I'm a fan of lots of different types of music, and a lot of music that I know that, wow, I have no idea how they do that. Right. I'm very inspired by people who do have skill sets that I don't have, so I try to just continually listen to new music.
You said something that you said this morning to the class, which is you have to learn fear is something that can be a great inspiration. You have to turn it from a headwind into a tailwind.
Oh, it's great.
You turn it from something that prevents you from moving forward to something that motivates you to move forward. And one of the things you should know, because you're dealing with somebody very successful and really cool about it, which is also an important point, no matter where you go, maintain your humanity, remember who you are as a human, don't be a jerk, because it's not going to pay off for you in the long run. And your humanity is tied into your creativity. So if you're in touch with your creativity, right? If you're in touch with your passion, if you're a full human being, taking a break works, recharging works. You can't lose yourself in the business because you'll lose your craft. Is that fair to say, Dave?
Yeah, of course.
Thank you very much.
Can I interject? One thing I was going to say, no matter where you're at on your journey in this creativity, and Dave, maybe you can back me up, but to me, yes, it's great to make money. I mean, we all want to make money doing something we love. But
I back that up.
But to me, the biggest reward, and I know people say, well, it's easy for you to say that, is the gift of getting to be creative. Mm-hmm. And I know for me, when I'm writing a song and I get on an idea that I love, or like you get that first chorus and you're like, wow, this could really be something, even if it never turns into anything that anybody records or makes any money, there's nothing like that feeling. And it's probably like for you, when you're mixing something and you finally have cracked that code or turned the corner, you're like, it's actually coming through the speakers like, wow, I might be proud to play this for somebody.
One of my favorite things is I've got a lot of songs out there, and every once in a while I'll hear something on the radio and I go, man, whoever did that's really good. Oh, shit, I did that.
That's a good feeling.
It's so cool. And I've had the opposite, too. Mm-hmm. The first song I ever got on the radio, I was going down the freeway.
You went, that sucks.
I said, I was kind of like an alpha state, just driving long. And I went, man, I've heard that song too much, so I changed the channel. And I'm like, oh, man, that's my song. And I put it back on the station, and I heard the fade. But my ego kicked in, and I thought, man, what a great fade.
Took some steady hands there.
Hey, man.
So as you can tell, a lot of successful people have self-esteem problems. We need affirmation wherever we can get it from.
Hey, Luke, how do you know when you plagiarize a song? How do you know when that melody that comes to your head has already been done? Can you really ever know that for sure?
Well, I try to really be aware of that. Usually if I'm writing something and all of a sudden I'm on this melody that I love, I'm like, oh, crap, who am I stealing this from? And I have to, and there's been times where I've had to literally think about that, but I don't know. And I try to, I'm very aware of that because I don't want to be getting sued.
Out.
I did it one day. This is a funny story. There was a guy, one of my best friends, Barry Dean, who's a great songwriter as well.
On our panels, actually.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, Barry's been on our panels.
Well, we have our rooms in the same building. So I was writing with him one day, and I start in on this melody, and I'm like, man, I'm feeling this. And I was like, kind of sounds familiar, but I don't know he goes, and I was like, I think it's okay. Well, he's so nice that literally we finished the song, and I'm driving home, like, singing it back in my head. I'm like, oh, geez. That's a demo that he turned in like the day before or a couple days before. And I'm like, I literally am ripping him off in front.
In front of him.
Not intentionally, but we couldn't put, I'm like, is this something? I'm like,
that's great.
Because it wasn't a hit song. So I'm like, no, I don't. And I called him. I was like, why didn't you tell me? He goes, well, it wasn't that close. I'm like, Barry, I was completely on top of your melody. Oh my gosh. I felt so stupid.
What a gentleman for sure.
Yeah.
One of the things we were alluding to earlier when all of you guys raised your hands and so many people raised their hands who do the same thing, that is really an advent of where the industry is today. All of you are really hybrids of things because you have to be. You have to engineer the records that you're writing, and then you're going to sort of produce the vocal on who the demo. So you end up being a number of different things, which is actually a career advantage. So in that career advantage, chase all those directions. One will emerge that you might be better than another, but be interested in all of them because the person that's going to hire you or the person that's going to need some demo done that turns into a hit or a young act that comes to you, they're going to come at you because they have those skills. We see all the time, we see companies looking for people like that, and not even necessarily music companies. Silicon Valley, we talk to a lot. They're looking for guys like you. Digital media companies. So we think that folks in audio are in a great position because of those multiple skills. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I mean, I know for me, probably my weakest skill set with what I do every day is engineering. Mm-hmm. And I watch your guys' show all the time, and it's a thing that I came to later in life because there's just the access to GarageBand or whatever, and I've come to really love it. But I also know, look, that's not what I do. But I think great engineers, great producers, great writers, but engineers I think of a lot because it's not what I do first. Great engineers are hard to come by, but they're so valuable.
So valuable.
And when I'm in a studio and I'm with a great engineer, it makes all the difference.
Yep.
This
morning we interviewed Dave Cobb, who, Chris Stapleton's Success and a bunch of other records. And before we left, and Dave is, very much about his business and protecting his studio. Dave does the Dave Cobb thing. He grabbed his engineer, brought him out to us, talked to us about how badass he was and the records he did. You could see how important the relationship was. And I'll take it a step further, if you don't mind. And this is really...
I don't mind.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Dave. Thanks for your blessing. I appreciate that, brother.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum shalom. But that's another... Dave did 23andMe or whatever the DNA test is.
Ancestry.com.
Ancestry.com.
Hey, I did that too.
So he calls me one day and he goes, "What's up, brother?" And I said, "Dave?" It says Dave. And I was like, he was like, "Yeah, man, what be happening?" And I was like, "Man, what's wrong with you?" And he was like, "Man, I did Ancestry.com and I am 5% black." And man, his pants have been sagging and shit. And he grabs his package all the time. It's pop music.
And also for my Jewish friends, I'm 3% Jewish.
So now I call him, he goes, "Shalom." So I don't know, I'm confused every day who it is, but it works out.
Amazing.
But I'm 92% from Spain. So
so thank you for that little detour down Ancestry Lane. But what we've seen in the show is that, and this was a little bit of kind of my take, and probably Beth would feel the same way. If you're Bruno Mars and you produce Bruno Mars, if somebody doesn't make a great mix, you're not Bruno Mars and you're not the producer of Bruno Mars. Folks who know how to engineer and do stuff have enormous power. And oftentimes I say it's the intersection of art and commerce. And you learn all kinds of skills. You learn how to be a psychologist. You learn when to be there, when not to be there. You know what to do with records and not records. You're performing in front of lots of people. Managers and the artist and the producer and the label and other. It's a fascinating space. And the last thing that we always tell people is, from a job perspective and a career perspective, there's no place in the world that's silent. Somebody needs your skills. Could be sports, could be audio forensics, could be medicine, could be the military. you have no idea how far the audio spectrum goes and how people pay for it and how they feel about you. So when we went up to Google and spoke, which I think you probably saw in the reel. Google and Silicon Valley see you guys as tech workers. And I know some audio engineers who went to a coding camp for 90 days, only 90 days, because they had audio skills. They came out and their starting salary was $160,000 after 90 days. Mic drop. See you guys later. Thank you and good night. So I'm not telling you not to do the music business. I'm telling you that. Very good.
It was a little time. My timing was a
when
little
I talked to Beth when we were putting this together, I said, does he like to laugh because we're really silly? And she said, oh, he's a prankster, so this works. So I'm just saying, you sometimes don't know you're sitting on the cutting edge of where you're going, and you think it's just about mixing Imagine Dragons or mixing. It can be that, but it can be much more than that. You have an enormous amount of power and skills and opportunity.
Good stuff, Herb. Luke, a lot of engineers in the audience. What one pet peeve or piece of advice could you give an up-and-coming engineer based on some of your worst experiences with engineers? What do we do wrong? I'm guessing that we talk at the wrong time, right during a creative moment, or you ask us an opinion and we give you too truthful an answer at the wrong time. What's a couple of things that you can share with us to help us improve our skill set when we're working with you?
Wow. I actually don't think it's bad to be truthful if you're asked, but yeah, I would say the main thing is when you're. How do I say this without not sounding like a jerk? But yeah, I think just know it. Just being able to read a room, and that's kind of what Dave is saying. So just don't put your input in unless you're asked. And then once you gain that trust with a producer or an artist, then you'll kind of just by second nature you'll know when to talk and when not to. But actually, one of my favorite engineers here in town, Ryan Gore, he's super quiet, and you're almost like, please tell me, like, how is this that bad? But he's also working on all the biggest records in Nashville as well too. So I think there's really something to be said for just being almost like a fly on the wall, and just really having things ready. Know like what might change somebody likes when they're coming in, and just really being, I guess the main thing is being aware of who's in the room and how to carry yourself in those certain situations.
Also, wouldn't you say, sometimes you might go to the engineer and you might say, what do you think of this? Well, that's not the time for you to show off your skill set, to show what you know. Say things like, well, we got that on tape, let's see if we can beat it. Never kill an idea in its infancy, because we've seen millions of times in the studio where an idea grew into what became the essence of what everybody liked about the song. And if an engineer says, man, that sucks, I think you should do this, that's not your job. Your job is to sit there and improve his creativity, to enhance it, and to be a partner. So know when to talk, know when not to talk, and know how to encourage him to do better. Yeah. And so a lot of times I ask my assistants, what do you think about that? I don't really want to know what they think of it. I just need somebody to tell me, man, it's not that bad, but let's, keep going. And if they say keep going, I assume that they didn't like it, but it's a different way of making the flow go.
And there's
make your own up. Make your own things up.
There's a lot of similarities with what I do in co-writing, and I've learned working with artists. And look, everybody's different, and I know some people react better to just being super harsh and whatever, but what I've found in 99% of the situations I'm in, if somebody has an idea or you're working with it doesn't even have to be a big artist, just another writer. If they have an idea and inside you're thinking, oh my gosh, that's awful, or what I think is awful, there's ways to finagle around that. And like Dave said, I don't think you just shut something down immediately, especially when it comes to creativity. There's just other ways to get the end product to where you want it. It may take a little longer, but you also may save a great working relationship.
And that's part of when I was alluding to before, the intersection of art and commerce. Part of the psychology of that intersection is learning how to read a room. It's learning how to interact with somebody. It's picking up cues when they're being sent and you don't know when they're sent. It's customer service ahead of time. It's How do you interact with somebody? You can't interact with somebody always on your phone. Like there's a human part of this. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And you have no idea how that can be the difference between you being employed and not employed, and staying employed and being let go. Because if you're great at that, you become invaluable to people.
Yeah.
And it's a very personal relationship.
It is. And I will say in this business, humility will go a long ways. Mm-hmm. Because if you think about it, I always have to think about where I'm at as a songwriter. The minute that I start thinking that I have all the answers or know everything because I've had so many hits or whatever, I'm immediately starting to take myself out of the game, because there are so many talented people who, if the world lost me tomorrow, this slot would be filled easily, and probably with somebody better. Mm-hmm. And I think if you carry that attitude into whatever you do as a producer, engineer, and it doesn't mean be soft. Like
right.
Everybody, we all have an opinion, and that's what makes us unique. So definitely stand up for your ideas and everything, but try to carry that just the humility into a studio, and just don't ever think you know it all, because even if you do, there's going to be people who don't want to work with you just because you're a jerk.
As a matter of fact, let me just ask this question, because you're going to a place I wanted to ask you about for them, the art of collaboration. Mm-hmm. What does it do for you as a songwriter? Does it stimulate you to go farther, hear new ideas? It's just good to be in a room with somebody bouncing things back. What's the? Yeah,
it's something I had to get used to, because before I ever got my first publishing deal, it was only songs. I only wrote songs by myself. It's such a personal thing, and I always thought, how do you write with other people? You know, you're trying to be open and honest, but it may take a while. But it's worth trying, because I know I've found a lot of my best work is with other people. And once you find those collaborators, again, it's a trusted voice where you can be super open, but it's just nice to be able to bounce stuff off of. And those days where you feel like you're out of ideas, a lot of times the person you're collaborating with will have an idea that sparks something, or just a conversation will spark something. So I know for me, a lot of days it just helps me get through the day, or it's just easier to get things done.
And looking back, who would you have collaborated with for the thing that comes out of the zipper?
See, that was definitely a collaboration with myself.
Okay.
But
good answer. It has to either be you or your
I only
wife.
actually got a verse and a chorus done.
Gosh.
That was
No, I mean, that's actually true. That's not trying to be dirty. I wrote a verse and a chorus, and I think that was before I knew a whole lot, and I just thought it was a whole song.
Homie, I'm not sure that we can go away with just one version of this.
I know, it was so good, wasn't it?
Yeah, the guy's got a lot to give. Should we do a part 2?
Got my vote.
All right, let's do it. See y'all next week.